what's up guys, this is Avery, and this is the 7th episode of our game development tutorial series. And in today's episode, we're going to be creating a player class that's able to animate the player. So this is just a quick sample of something I made. And this is a rough draft to the player for our game I'm going to be making. So as you can see, this is the player right here. And I have it so it's an idle animation. I'm going to kind of fix it up a little bit more. And then I have a shield animation where he raises his shield and crouches down. So basically how animation works is when we create our object class, we had it so it could tell it the image file, and then you can also make it so it could tell it the source from where to crop it in. So basically, you would tell it the X and the Y and the width and the height. So at our animation, it's going to be able to loop through it. So you can have it loop from when it's in the idle animation, you have it loop from here to over here, and it'll just keep looping back and forth. So you want to lift up the shield, you have it loop through all 4 of these. So now we're going to go ahead back into the code, and we're going to go and make a class that's able to hold all the animations. So now back in our code from last episode, so we did audio. So I went ahead and just stripped out a few things of the audio where we made a object just called audio effect. And so I just went ahead and deleted that because that was just for testing. So now that we're back in here, we're going to create 2 new files, and we'll call this file entity.h and the other file entity.cpp. So basically what these files are going to be is that they're going to be an extension of the object. So they're going to be object files, but they're going to have more functions, more variables. So to do that, we'll just say if not defined entity, and then we'll define entity.h, and then we'll end if entity. So now we'll create the class. It's going to be called entity. So now we're going to have it public object. So now it is an object class. And now we need to make sure it includes object. And now in the game.h, we're going to include our entity class. So include entity.h. And then in here, we're going to include it as well. Include entity.h. So now in here, we'll create our public thing, and we'll create our private section. Private. I know how to spell. Alright. So now in the entity class, it's basically just going to be a class that's a continuation of the object class. So we'll be able to load in the image and draw it to the screen. But now we want to have a few more things. So an entity would include basically any sort of non-playable character and the actual player. So any sort of enemy or friendly character or the player is going to include. So what are some things that all of them would have? So like they would, for example, they would all have health. So we'll go ahead and create health. So it'll be health, and we'll do max health as well. In an episode or 2, I'm going to be showing about items and collectibles and inventory. So I'm not going to add that in here yet next, but that's another thing. They're all going to have an inventory system, but we're not going to do that quite yet. So now we need to have getters and setters for these. So we'll just do void set health, and it'll just be int h, and health will equal h, and do the same for the max health. So set max health, and int h, then max health will equal h. And then we'll have getters, so int get health, and const return health, and int get max health. And it'll be const. What does that? Okay. Okay. Sorry about that. It'll be const return max health. Okay, so that's pretty simple. So now we want to create some functions to animate. So to animate, we're going to create a structure called a cycle. So structure cycle. And this will include a few things. So it's going to include the row. So there's this row and this row. So technically how it would work, this would be row 0 and this would be row 1. But we're going to go ahead and just add 1 to each number. So like this one will be row 1. So what we're going to want to do is just do int row. Now we can do the width of it, and then we'll have the height, and we can say how many there are. So this one would have 2, this one would have 4, and now we can say the speed. So how fast do you want to loop through these? We'll go ahead and make it so the speed is how many times you want to loop through it based on what frame it's been on. And I believe that is all we need for the cycle. So now let's create a vector of cycles. So to do that, we're going to want to include vector. And we're doing that just so we can store all of our cycles. So we'll just do vector cycle, and we'll call this animations. And I'll do, here I'll show you, I'll do int, I'll tell you why in a moment. So int create cycle. And so it's going to have an int row, an int width, and a height, an amount, and a speed. So basically why it has the int at the very beginning is because it's going to create a cycle, and then it's going to push it into the vector, and then it will return back saying what point of the vector is the one that you just created. So now we can make it so we can have the current animation. So we'll just do current animation. So now we'll do void and set current animation. And then it'll be S and C, and then we'll do current anim equals C. So that's so the player, once they've created an animation, they can go ahead and set that one. But now, let's make it so they can also animate. So now we'll just do void update animation. And so now we just need to go ahead and create these 3 functions. We'll just jump back into here. We will do entity like that. I'll go ahead and copy it on these. Now let's go ahead and add this. Oh wait, actually, we already had this function. That's done. So now let's go ahead and create a temporary cycle. So we'll do cycle temp. I'll set all the things. So row will equal r, temp.width will equal width, temp.height will equal height, and then temp.amount will equal the amount that is given, and same with the speed. And now we're going to want to add it into the vector. So we'll do animations dot pushback, and then it'll be temp. So now we want to return animations dot size. So that basically just creates a new cycle, adds it to the list, and then it tells it which one in the list it is. So now let's make it so we can animate through it there. So like we said, this is an object class, so it has the source. So we'll just do set source, and the source, you give it the x, y, width, and height. So now we need a few more things. We'll have an int. Actually, we'll add this into the cycle. It'll be the int tick, so it tells it which frame it's on. And now we'll go ahead and set temp.tick to 0. And then we'll have another one where it's int begin. So each time you set the cycle, it's going to want to begin again. So begin will equal 0. So now, like we said, it's going to be the x. So to find the x, we would give it the tick, so it's which placement it's on, and we would give it the width. So to do that, I just want to do animations and current anim dot width times animations current anim dot tick. We'll go ahead and copy this so we can use it faster. So now we want to create the y. So the y is going to be the row times the height. And then you just pass in the width and then the height. You have 5. Oh wait, my bad. This right here is supposed to be multiplication. This over here is going to be height. So I'll go ahead, until we compile it, I'll just go ahead and do it like this so you can see it easier. And I don't know if that would make it so you can compile those backslashes, I'm not sure. Probably not. But that's just it for right now so you can see it easier. So the x is going to be the width times the tick. The row will be the y will be the row times the height, and then the width and then the height. So now I want to make it so it actually loops through the animation. So what we can do is if tick is greater than the amount, and then you want to set greater or equal than the amount, then you'll set the amount, or sorry, you set that, oh wait, but it's in here. So we'll set tick equals 0, and that's not tick as well. And now after this, you do tick plus plus, so it loops on to the next one. And then this right here is going to be the amount. But now we want to make it so it loops onto the very first one when it begins. And so that's how we're going to calculate the speed. So we only want to add plus plus if it's the next frame. So always do begin plus plus. And now I'll just do if begin is greater than the animation dot speed. And if it is, we'll add tick to plus plus, and we'll set begin back to 0. So now let's compile that just to see what we have so far. Entity 20. Okay, so this is just this error. We'll just need to make sure all this is back in order. No. Alright, 93. Okay, that was from a practice from before. So now just in the game, now we're going to create a new object. So we'll just call this entity player. And now we're also going to want to create our update function, so we'll get rid of that so we can actually add the update to the very end. So now we'll just do void game update. And so in here we'll do player.update, and I believe it was animation. So now in here we're going to set some of the player's information. So we'll do set image, and I'll go ahead and get the file just in a second. And there's the render, and then player.set size or destination. So I'll set that to 100, 100. Then the size is 47 by 45, and we'll go ahead and multiply that by 3 so it's scaled. So now we want to create 2 new animations for the idle and for the shield. So we'll just do int idle and shield. So we'll do idle equals player dot create cycle, and so that would be row 1, and then it's going to have 47 by 45, and then the amount is 2, and we'll set the speed to 20. I'm not exactly sure how fast it's going to be. And then we'll just do that one more time for the shield. So shield will be row 2, and there'll be 4 of them. So now we need to make sure we subtract 1. So when we go into create cycle, we'll just do row minus 1, because it's actually going to be 0 for the number 1 is going to be. So all needs to go down by 1. So actually, yeah, that's my code when I was practicing earlier with this. But you'll want to do right here in the E, And when the W button, I just make it so it set the animation to shield. But I think I set current animation to shield. And now right here we'll do player.set current animation to idle. So now let's also go and render the character. So we'll do draw player. Oh. So now let's go ahead and check this out. Actually, right before that, we need to make sure we include the file. So I'll have this in the GitHub if you guys want to use my exact same picture. Alright, now let's build that and check it out. Alright, so as you can see, it's doing the wrong animation, but let's click W and see what that does. Alright, that made it so it goes away. So I guess the row is off, so it's not doing the right one. Maybe let's get rid of that subtraction right there, and let's try that one more time. Okay, that doesn't work. So now we need to make sure we subtract it somewhere else as well. So it's going to be the temp row, so that's what the row is equal to. But we want to make sure that it's getting the right spot. And that's going to be the current animation spot. So, okay, so the row actually, we can leave that as is. But now we want to do return animation size -1. Because say the animation size is 2, but it's actually 1 and 0, not 1 and 0, 1 and 2. So we need a -1 from there. Okay, and that's our idle animation. Now let's click W, and that's our shield animation. So that one's a little bit slower, so we can go ahead and change the speed for that. So the shield, we'll just set that to 30. Oh, my bad. That actually makes it slower. Set that to 10. Now it'll be twice as fast as the idle. Alright, so that's pretty simple. But as you can see in this example, he's always animating. When I click D, he goes out and presses the shield, and while I'm holding it, he stays like that. And when I let go, he'll slowly reverse. So now let's make it so we can do that. So we'll create a new function. We'll just call this void set. We'll just call it reverse. Okay, it's pretty simple. So now it's going to set this a boolean. Actually, we'll do boolean. Actually, no. So now we're gonna have a boolean called rev, and now we're also going to create the constructor. So it'll just be entity, and we'll just set rev to false. So this just means it's in reverse mode. So now rev equals r. So let's just make it so we can pass in what if it needs to be in reverse or not. So you can use it to also make it so it's unreversed. So now with that, we need to go into here where the tick changes. So we'll go ahead and separate this. So now we can have another if statement. So if not rev, and then if rev, and instead of that, it will subtract the tick by each one. So now that's going to make it so you can reverse it. But as you can see in this program, you can also have it hold, and then have it so you can cancel halfway through. So how you want to do that is to make it so when you're animating in here, when you let go of this, it's holding this, it'll set it to shield. But now when it's like this, you can set reverse, and we'll set that to true. So now it needs a reverse. But now it'll just stay continuously reversed. So what you could do is we'll create another function, so when it's fully reversed, you can tell it to change it to another animation. So when this is reversed, we'll set it to idle. So now we're going to copy this one, and we're going to set int new anim. So now when this becomes reversed, you want to make it so once it reaches 0, it goes to the new animation. And then, so we'll call it new A, we'll set that to 1, and then that'll be a bool. Let's call it nav, it's probably not that good of a name, but now we'll call that to new animation. And nav, and then int new animation. So what this is going to do is just going to make it so when it reverses, if this is true, then it will set it to this one. So now we have a new check right here. So if reverse is equal or less than 0, and now we want to do if in AB, do this one thing, else, then we'll set the tick to 0. But if not, we're going to set current anim to new animation, and then we'll set new animation fee to false, and then we'll set the reverse to false. So not quite sure that's green, but I want to clarify is NAs, that's what I called it, right? Oh, new animation, my bad. Alright, let's compile that. Alright, that's fine. That's what I thought it was NA. And then this needs to be down here. Now that's not an if statement. That's why it was like that. Alright. So now it's like that, and now that seemed to make, oh wait, no, wrong button. Alright. And now when you hold it, it'll stay like that. Let go, it'll go back to idle. Alright. So it's as simple as that. So now you can make it so you can create an animation, create multiple cycles. You can make it so once it's finished with an animation, you can have a reverse and then set back to a new animation. I'll go ahead and I'm going to upload this code to the GitHub. I'll have the link to the newest commit in the description. So to include this file as well for the image. It's going to include the PNG file and the GIMP file, XCF or something like that. So you can go ahead and edit yourself. I'm going to go ahead and change it some bit, but that's basically everything we've got so far. If you guys are new, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And if you enjoyed this video, got anything out of it, if you're following along with the game tutorial, I assume you are, just go ahead and click the like button. And if you guys don't mind sharing with your friends, and if you guys have any comments, just leave it in the comment section or in the Reddit forum if that's where you found this. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a great day, and see you guys next time.